Hello and welcome to Spy Hard's podcast. I'm Agent Scott.
And I'm Cam the Provocateur, trying and failing to do a pirouette.
I've never done ballet before.
Really?
Surprisingly.
I'm shocked.
Surprisingly. I look very limber, don't I?
Yeah, I don't think anyone ever questioned whether you'd done ballet before.
Hey, I used to dance.
Was it like retro-style b-boy dancing?
Well, it was actually contemporary dance. Yeah, it was like street dance.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Did you stomp the yard?
It was stomped. I doth stomp it.
Did you take it to the streets?
I took it. And they gave it back. They didn't want
it. You were like...
we'd like to return this back, please.
You were Britain's answer to Channing Tatum.
Yes. What were those films called again?
Well, it was the...
Magic Mike, I'm thinking of.
Oh, Magic Mike, because he was in the Step Up franchise as well.
Of course he was. Yeah. I'm definitely not going to get my kit off. Like Magic Mike or
He
dance.
never did. He never took the kit off.
Did he not get his butt out or anything?
Oh, I guess he did that probably.
Wait, hang on.
Yeah.
Have you seen them all?
Steven Soderbergh movies. I watch all Steven Soderbergh's films.
It's like your excuse for the third viewing of like Magic Mike XXX3 or whatever it's called. It's for Steven Soderbergh's cinematography. That's the only reason I'm here.
First one's pretty good. It's sort of a riff on Saturday Night Fever.
Right.
Has a lot to say about the economy, actually. You may not think it would, but it does. Matthew McConaughey is really great in that one. I was not a fan, particularly of the second and third.
The only thing I know about them is Kevin Nash, the wrestler, is in at least the first one.
He's in all three, I think, yeah.
Wow. Go for it.
That's
Diesel.
Right.
Well
That's
done.
Right.
Well, we're off to a good start.
We're talking dance movies. It's all relevant.
What's your favorite dance movie?
Well, I named Saturday Night Fever. That's a pretty damn good one. I don't know that I have... I mean, there's like probably Singing in the Rain.
The other problem is you've got like musicals that have dance numbers, but do they count as dance movies? Like The King and I has a few dance numbers, but is that a dance movie?
Well, I mean, like Singing in the Rain is Gene Kelly, who's a famous dancer, so that's a good one. I also love It's Always Fair Weather with Gene Kelly. Some of the Fred Astaire ones I really enjoy, but none of them I would say are favorites. So I'm more of a Gene Kelly guy than a Fred Astaire guy.
Fair enough. I'm more of a Magic Mike kind of guy.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Although people pay me not to take my clothes off, so it's a lucrative business.
I thought you were going to say Showgirls was your favorite.
Do you know, I only watched that once, and I thought it wasn't that bad.
I saw it once as well, a long time ago, and I think I thought it was just like incredibly campy. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. It's had a real resurgence, and Paul Verhoeven was probably doing wacky things with that material. I don't know. It's been so long since I saw it, but maybe I should revisit it. I don't know.
Patreon?
Question mark? I don't think there's a connection there, but
I don't think people are going to be running to that. Oh, whoa.
I think Robert Davi's in it. I don't know if he's done enough spy films to qualify, but yeah.
Well, the jury's out on Robert Davi. You can let us know, folks. I'm not going to deep dive into that man's filmography, but if he has a few more spy films, I'd be keen to hear it.
Yes, and who knows, that could be a really wacky Agents in the Field, but I don't know that it qualifies.
No, not currently, but a film that does qualify to talk about.
Yeah.
And the reason we're here today is, Cameron?
We are here to tackle...
Breathe in.
From the world of John Wick, Ballerina.
There you go. Big breath, and then you say it. Yeah.
Yes, the new film, the sidequel to the John Wick franchise, starring Ana de Armas.
I hate the word sidequel.
Yeah, I mean, it's accurate here. Like, it genuinely is accurate, so I guess it's fine.
It does belong off to the side.
Well, I mean, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of... after Rogue One came out and was a huge hit, there was a lot of talk that a lot of studios were like, we need our Rogue One. Because what it was doing was trading a well-known franchise, but with a whole new cast. You don't have to deal with past threads of storytelling particularly. You can kind of do your own thing, but still be able to market it as an entry into a well-established brand that people love. And in a way, that's what Ballerina is, ultimately, with the John Wick franchise.
Well, yeah, it's an attempt to extend the franchise with other characters.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Keanu is getting older. He's 60, I think, or 61. And I think he has signed on to do a John Wick 5. But even if he does John Wick 5, you're not going to have probably John Wick 9. And so the idea is, I'm sure that, hey, Ballerina could spawn, 3 films, 4 films. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe we'll come back to that at the end. But yeah, so we're talking about Ballerina. And for those who haven't seen it just yet, we'll get into sort of our initial thoughts. Because this is a declassified episode. What we're going to do, we're going to just talk about the film a little bit at the start and whether you should go see it in theaters. That's the non-spoiler section. After that, we'll give you a warning, and then there'll be spoilers aplenty. So those who are sort of waiting to go and see it for our review or just haven't got around to it yet, you might want to tune out of that bit and come back after you've seen the film. Or if you're not going to see it at all, just sit back and enjoy.
Yeah, that's right. There's very little to truly spoil in this film if you've seen, the trailers.
No, that's very true. But here is your synopsis for the film. And I note that the site I get my synopsis from just calls it Ballerina.
I know, that's what they say on the screen as well, but it's so much funnier to refer to it as From the World of John Wick, Ballerina.
Well, Ballerina, 2025, directed by Len Wiseman.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get back to that. Vengeance has a new face. Taking place during the events of John Wick 3 Parabellum, Eve Macaro begins her training in the assassin traditions of the Ruscaroma.
Yep, those good old Ruscaromas that we all are so familiar with just by the name.
Oh, yes. Get ready to drink in all of the silly, silly, silly lore of the John Wick world. There are tables, there are even higher tables, there are coins, there are continentals. It's all there.
What percent of the John Wick audience do you think actually knows these terms and could, basically, you mentioned the high table there, but how many of them would actually have that pop to their mind if you asked them about the lore of John Wick?
The amount of people that turned up and watched the final episode of The Continental.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very small percentage. I think it's people see characters they recognize. They probably can't name most of them, but they're there for the action. And the John Wick franchise, and we reviewed the 4th one also with a declassified, has been very consistent in terms of quality. I think it's always pretty much delivered. You can have your favorites. I think the conventional thinking currently is that the 3rd is the weakest of the 4, but I think even 3 has incredible stuff in it and is a lot of fun. And so, I mean, in a way, it actually sets a pretty high bar for a franchise because you can do something more sensational than we've seen before in those films, and they might with John Wick 5, who knows. I think 4 really raised the bar with that big stairwell fight, or the long staircase. That was incredible. But it's also, I think, really easy to hit lower than those movies.
Yes, and I think these films live or die on their stunts.
That and Keanu Reeves' charisma, which really does go a long way, I think, in selling those movies.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I don't go there for that. I don't put a lot of stock in Keanu Reeves as an actor.
Well, the thing is, he doesn't have huge range, but as a presence, people legitimately like him a lot.
Sure.
And I think that is what pulls them back, because you could swap him out, throw in, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an actor who, Garrett Hedlund. Garrett Hedlund is a good actor, okay?
Right.
And he's shown up in lots of roles as a supporting character and popped, but he's not really a dependable leading man. You throw him in as the lead of John Wick, it doesn't have the legs that it has with Keanu Reeves.
I agree. There's a cachet, a social cachet that Keanu Reeves has that I think probably allowed people to give the first one a try, and then they realized what they were eating. And they were like, "Oh, I would like another serving of this, please." And we've had 4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which brings us to Ballerina.
Mm-hmm.
Their attempt at expanding the universe, or their second attempt, I suppose, after the Continental TV show that I just made a joke about, that has already been cancelled and will not be returning.
You and I watched that entire season. It
Uh-huh.
wasn't the worst thing I've ever watched, but it certainly wasn't memorable, that's for sure.
It was entirely uninteresting.
Like, do you remember anything about it, really?
I remember...
I remember the villain was Mel Gibson, who was giving like a pretty
Yes.
memorable deranged performance in that show. But like beyond that, like
A lady with a mask on, I think, was one of the villains. Like, someone they hired to kill people.
oh boy. And the thing is, like, we reviewed that on the Patreon, and it is like wiped from my memory now.
I remember some shootouts in, like, hotel hallways.
I think that's the last episode. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And that TV show tends to lean on the John Wick, like, lore
Yeah.
quite a lot. And it's trying to flesh out the lore. And I think one of its failings is people don't care.
That's very true. And no one cared about that show. Yeah.
No, no. So this is their another attempt. And, you know, it's had a bit of an interesting life leading up to its release. You know, filming began in 2022. Went through to 2023. In 2024, Chad Stahelski came in to do some reshoots allegedly on action scenes, but according to other sources, Chad Stahelski is the guy who directed the John Wick films. Allegedly, he reshot large portions of the film, but those are unconfirmed reports. Some people say they watch this film and see the edits. I will get into that, but whether or not Len Wiseman did direct it, I guess will eventually come out in the wash.
Yeah. I mean, Len Wiseman, for those that don't know, probably best known for doing the Underworld films.
Okay,
He was married to Kate Beckinsale at the time, and so it was sort of their project together.
makes sense.
He also directed Live Free or Die Hard, the fourth film in the franchise.
I like that one. It's okay.
I did too, and I remember being surprised because I was not a big Underworld guy, and I thought they were kind of junk.
I liked seeing Kate Beckinsale in leather. That was about it.
I mean, I think that's what they knew they could sell. But like, I
Yeah.
thought a lot of the action direction was very poor in those films, and they just felt kind of like cheap B movies,
Mhm.
and not in a good way, not in like the charming, fun way. It felt like kind of like you were. I honestly kind of liken them to the later Resident Evil sequels.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Trashy.
yeah,
Just trashy.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so I didn't think that highly of them. And when they announced he was going to do Live Free or Die Hard, I was like, oh no, oh this is bad. And ultimately, I had some fun with the movie. I actually like it. Well, it looks real good compared to Part 5.
Uh-huh.
And so I remember being actually bummed when I saw the fifth one that he didn't come back and do the fifth, because clearly John Moore was not the man to take on the Die Hard franchise.
Well, actually felt like a film
Yes.
compared to 5, which felt more like something shot on a set that just felt very like pieced together.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Russia.
But that's how we got to Ballerina. But Cam, let's talk about the film. People want to hear what we think. And recently, we did a declassified episode on Mission Impossible,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't discuss the film off air beforehand, and we're doing the same thing here. So I've not heard your thoughts on Ballerina. You've not heard my thoughts on it. So we're just going to espouse it to each other now. So why don't you lead us off? What did you think of Ballerina?
So a little bit of a story about my trip to see Ballerina.
All right, take a seat, everyone. Sit back.
So I work 5 a.m. shifts. They're very early. And Scott and I had agreed to do this episode. And I was like, okay, I've got to figure out a time when I can see Ballerina this weekend. So I, on Thursday night, I was like, okay, there's a 3:40 show on Friday. That would work perfectly. I can go right from work and see the movie, and I'm good to go. And so I bought the ticket Thursday night, get home from work Friday, just change my clothes, wash up, sat down for a few minutes. I was like, okay, time to head out to see Ballerina.
Oh no.
Get on the bus, get to the theater. It's 3:39 or something like that. And then I realized I went to the wrong theater.
Oh no. I thought you were going to say you fell asleep when you sat down.
No. And so I bought a ticket to see it downtown and ended up basically heading to one city over, not going downtown. And so I was like, oh God. So then the show that was going to be up next at the theater I was at was 4:30.
Mm.
So I had to go wander around a mall for about an hour. And then ultimately, I am the person that paid $37 to see Ballerina.
I mean, you propped up this film this weekend. Congratulations.
I did.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So,
Yeah.
I guess the question
You
then
love
is,
the world of John Wick.
I didn't want to leave. I was seeing it twice in 2 separate locations. So I guess the question really is, did it justify the $37 investment? No, but not a lot of movies do. No, but honestly, I would say this movie was actually more engaging and fun than I expected it to be. I really thought it was going to be pretty junky. And I think, like, is it hitting the level that the other John Wick films do? No. I think there's an angle that franchise has with the character of John Wick that just, I think, grabs you a little more. Like, it's not the fact that John Wick lost his wife, right? Like, that's not the hook.
Mm-hmm.
The hook is that the bad guys killed his dog, and that kicked off this whole reign of vengeance on the underworld. And that is such a simple hook, but it's something that's never really been done. And at the time, people were like, it's about a guy who's getting revenge for bad guys killing his dog. And that felt kind of novel. And the way they've kind of spun that off in their own directions, I think they've always kept it interesting with very quirky supporting characters. And just Chad Stahelski's directed the 2nd through the 4th. The elevated levels of action have been incredibly ambitious and impressive. And the John Wick stunt team have made their impact on not just that franchise, but also on Hollywood as a whole.
Yep.
Where they have jumped over and worked on other films. They were doing action for the Birds of Prey film, as I recall, as well as other movies.
They did one of the Hitman films, I think we tackled at one point.
That's right.
That.
Yeah, I think it was the second one. And so, like, their brand of action has become kind of this target that Hollywood aims for and brings them on board to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, I do think, has a couple action sequences that showed me things I'd never seen before, which is frankly what I ask for in this type of film. But I do think, like, the kind of revenge angle on this and the characters don't live up to the other John Wick films. I think, like, it's not great when I'm sitting there thinking, like, boy, the plot of this movie reminds me a lot of Elektra, the spin-off of Daredevil, which, this is infinitely better than Elektra, but it's the same kind of tried and true hackneyed kind of parts and not elevated in a way where it feels like it's having fun with that formula. It's kind of like going through the motions.
Yeah.
And I just don't know that it has the supporting characters that pop the way they do in the John Wick franchise. So, like, when this was said and done, I had a good time with it. If you are looking for a, 2-hour action film that's going to deliver on the action front, it works. Like, there's lots of action movies that will promise that and then fail. People, I don't think were that thrilled the last Jason Statham one, A Working Man or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
That's a movie where it's kind of like generic action that, you kind of sit through and just kind of wait for that. Whereas this movie really is trying to do cool things and succeeding. So on that kind of front, I say it is a recommend. It's just not going to stick in your mind the way maybe the better John Wick films do.
I think I'm a little bit harsher on it than you are, in the sense of, well, we'll get into the good and the bad, but overall, I don't think I'll remember much of this in the months to come. Whereas I think there's generally sequences in most John Wick films I can remember.
I think there's 2 in this movie I will remember.
I know the 2 you're talking about. I don't know how long they're going to stay with me. I just think, comparatively speaking. But what I think this film has going for it is the Stahelski stunts team, because they make any action they do look, I think, tight and snug and visceral. And I think Ana de Armas is the other thing it's got going for it, is because for me, she's an actor that could just emote and makes you feel for her as a character. Like, I don't know what it is about her vulnerability. It always speaks to me, and I usually buy whatever she's selling.
Right.
If it's bath water, I'll be buying it. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I thought Sydney Sweeney was the one selling bath water.
She is. But if Anna wants to sell some,
I mean, it's her eyes ultimately. Like, there's a kind of naive vulnerability in her eyes that is really interesting in a movie like this, where a lot of the times your lead character is just kind of this hardened shell, just going through bad guys one after another. And she can do all the physical stuff. That's not even like that interesting here because we've seen it done. Like she
Yeah.
killed it in No Time to Die. We've seen her do action in The Gray Man and Ghosted. We've seen this sort of thing before. So it's not like you go into this movie going, boy, will she be able to pull this off? Of course she can. And there's enough to invest in just from the point of view, I think, what she's getting across, like that vulnerability through the character. But what's actually on the page? Not a heck of a lot.
Oh, I think she is, and that's why I said of the two is the stunts team and her.
Yeah.
I think she is bringing a lot to it. I don't think, again, much like you said with Keanu Reeves, I think if you cast a lesser actor in this role, this film would be entirely forgettable.
Yes.
It's just lucky that I mean, Ana de Armas has kind of given up the It Girl title to Sydney Sweeney these days, but she was the It Girl for a while.
It wasn't even a while. Nowadays, you're like an It Girl or It Guy for like, what, 6 months?
Yeah, who's the It Guy currently? Glenn Powell?
Is it Timothy Chalamet?
I feel like he's already had his bit.
Glenn Powell's a good call out too.
Yeah.
Or is this over now? Twisters was last summer. He's long past. He's old.
Oh, yeah.
Toss him in the retirement home.
I don't know who it is now. Actually, let us know, folks. Who do you think is the It Guy? But yeah, I think, she gives a good performance with what she's got. And there's a whole, this isn't a spoiler, but we'll get to spoilers, but there's kind of a revenge plot built into this, and I said it in the synopsis. I couldn't care about her revenge.
No.
Really, I was just sitting through this to see what cool action they could put together, and if Ana de Armas could sell it, which she did.
Well, it felt more perfunctory. It was like, take just something that, you've seen before. There you go. It's basically like, that's what's, basically pulling back the top or whatever to start the motion of the action movie, but you never really care about anything to do with what her character is trying to achieve or going through, at all. No. Like, I think they just, more effort was done in the Keanu Reeves films to sell the pathos of that character.
Mm-hmm.
Was it simplistic? 100% in the John Wick films. Those movies are not giving you deep explorations of human emotion or trauma or anything that John Wick has gone through. But they did a good enough job to kind of sell the pop aspect of it and make it feel kind of fun and involving.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things these films sort of can hang their hat on is villains.
Mm-hmm.
And the John Wick films have had a mixed bag with the villains.
I think they've been more hit than miss, but yeah.
Yeah, this one, again, we'll get into it more in a bit, but I feel like it's not doing itself any favors.
Agreed on that, yeah.
And of course, John Wick does feature in this film. He's all over the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I might ask you a question about that later on, but it doesn't really impact the film too much. Like, if you're going to, like, in the hope that it's a John Wick film featuring Ana de Armas,
right?
It's the other way around, and there's not a whole ton of John Wick.
I think there's more than you'd expect of him, but less than you'd hope.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, would I recommend it? I'd say this is a real, like, if you have one of those cinema memberships where you don't have to pay for tickets.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe go and see it. But, like, say with Mission Impossible, for instance, we talked about that recently, The Final Reckoning. That's the sort of film that I think deserves to be seen on the big screen, IMAX or something. You can really enjoy the visual splendor that they're selling you. I'm not sure I could say this film is the same.
And yet I feel like this movie is probably more successful as an entry in the John Wick franchise than I felt Mission Impossible was in the Mission Impossible franchise. So I'm kind of in this weird gray zone where I go, you're right. Like, in terms of the visuals of the biplane sequence in Mission Impossible, that is what you want to see on the big screen. Like, that is what sells it. Or for many, the submarine sequence, which didn't wow me as much, but I think if you're going to see it, you want to see it on the big screen. Yeah. Whereas you're right. Like, I think Ballerina could be happily watched at home. But I do think it's maybe slightly better as a movie.
Well, I think, like, the question when we talk about this is, like, yes, a lot of films would be served by seeing in the cinema.
Yeah.
But tickets are, like, $18
That's
nowadays.
or $37 if you're an idiot.
Yeah, or $37 if you're an idiot. So like, I don't know if I could say run to this one, but if you have a bit of spare time, maybe go and see it. I don't know if that's like a really straight answer that you want.
I know.
If you're looking for a binary yes or no, I'd probably go yes, but I'd say don't run to it.
I would soft recommend watching the movie at some point in your life. I would say that. Like,
yeah, I wouldn't skip it. I wouldn't skip it. If you're a John Wick fan, there are things to enjoy here.
But I also think like it delivers a more effective big screen experience than like Thunderbolts, which came out earlier this summer. So there is that. You know, maybe that's a better comparison in terms of kind of being, to a degree, kind of template, you know, action adventure films.
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't tell people to run to Thunderbolts.
No, me neither.
I'd say catch that on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Which is probably already there at time of recording.
Well, judging from the box office, that is where most people are going to be watching it.
Yeesh. Yeah, so I guess it's a soft yes to go and see it in theaters, but my advice would be don't splurge on the like Mega Screen X or the IMAX or whatever. Go see it on like a buy one get one free Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say like a cheap Tuesday or some sort of special deal night if you've got it. If you're a member of like I think it's called like the AMC Stubs Club or something like that.
It's a very Canadian reference, I'm sure.
No, that's not. That's an American reference.
Okay.
You know, like use it for that to get a discount. We've got the Cine Club here in Canada, and I think if you get a free ticket every month, use that one. That kind of thing.
We have like the Cineworld Unlimited membership or the Odeon, whatever it is, membership where you spend like about the price of a ticket and a half a month to get unlimited tickets.
Right.
Which I'm a member of. So I would say, yes, go see it because I basically have unlimited tickets.
Sure.
But like if you're looking to take a whole family of 4,
no.
That's a Lilo and Stitch all day.
But sure, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that. So yeah, a soft yes. But if you missed it and caught it on streaming, I don't think you'd kick yourself.
No, I agree.
But that's it. That is the non-spoiler section done. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty detail. Cam's going to put his tutu on and plie for us all. Spoilers are coming. You have been warned.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Agents, where are you? Why do you hide? Follow that Patreon trail and make Spyhards your guide.
That's right. From Spy TV reviews covering the antics of George Smiley, Jack Bauer, and the Slow Horses to reviews of non-spy movies from your favorite spy actors, there's no more secrets over on our Patreon. But Cam, tell the listeners about this week's top secret broadcast.
Scott, we've seen the Man of Steel take on a real estate scheme and Terrence Stamp disco wear. Now we watch him face his greatest threat yet, 1980s computers, because we are looking at 1983's Superman 3 starring Christopher Reeve and Richard Pryor. Is this franchise still flying high, or is it beginning to crash to earth? We'll find out.
So, tune your dial to patreon.com/spyhards and spice up your podcast feed.
But before Nick Knack runs out of Tabasco, resume the Spy Jinx. So, Scott, where do you want to start with this one?
Let's start with how it did.
Oh, like the reception to the movie.
Yeah, it seems to be the lowest reviewed John Wick film.
Not by as much as I would have thought, though. Like, honestly, I really thought this was going to be very badly reviewed when I just started hearing all the behind the scenes on this one.
Yeah.
I really thought it was just going to be like kind of salvaging a disaster. Not the case. It's decently reviewed.
I don't feel that. Like I've seen people, even like Mark Commode said, this film feels disjointed and like it's been patched together. I did not get that sense.
It felt, I mean, to me, as functional as any sort of B-action movie. I really, and the thing is, like, the John Wick movies don't feel like these seamless storytelling, extravaganzas. It's
but like you can't tell me like that Mission Impossible Final Reckoning felt seamless when Tom Cruise's hair was changing every other scene.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You watch the first hour of that movie. I mean, there's nothing like that in Ballerina. So, I thought it completely worked as an action film. But yeah, so its opening weekend, it did 25 million domestic and I believe 26 million international. And its budget was, I believe, Lionsgate paid about 80 million. So
Jeez. That's a bit over the odds, isn't it?
no, that's less than a John Wick film. So
Okay.
like they were hedging their bets. It's kind of that 80 million is that number they use now for something that people are unsure about. Like I remember they spent that on I think the first Venom movie and also on the first Joker film. Because they're like, this might work, but we're not going to drop $200 million. And in a case like this movie was not a big success. It did pretty much akin to the Karate Kid film that came out the week before, which also not a success. But ultimately, like, no one's going to lose money. They're probably going to make money because the budget's relatively low.
Yeah, and it's only its first weekend, so it'll do probably half that again, and then international releases will ramp up in other places, so it'll probably double that side of things.
Streaming and whatever other deals are in place. They'll make money off Ballerina. I do think the likelihood of Ballerina 2 is quite slim.
Well, I was going to ask you that at the end, but seeing as you brought it up, so you think this is a one and done for Ana de Armas's character?
I think so, yeah. I don't, unless there's a huge, second week where it like loses no steam at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is the end of the road for this character.
I could see them. I'm inclined to agree, but I could maybe see her turning up in John Wick 5.
That's possible. Is like a small part in a John Wick film, but I don't think you're going to see Ballerina sequels.
No. I think it was a swing and a miss. Which is a shame because they obviously have been trying to expand this universe, and I think there are people who care about this universe and its characters. I just don't count myself as one of them.
The interesting thing was, like, audience scores were actually quite strong coming out of this movie. So it wasn't like people were walking out saying, oh, this is lousy compared to the other films. It was actually being received quite well. So, I mean, it just depends whether it's a case of people seeing the whole spin-off thing in the marketing being like, it's not a Keanu Reeves movie, I don't care. But then they catch up with it on streaming or wherever else they see it and go, oh, I actually really like Ballerina.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, and there's also there's a fatigue element here to bear in mind. Not genre fatigue, but just Mission Impossible came out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty heavy action film.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's getting a lot of eyeballs. It was still number, I think, 3 this weekend or 4.
Correct. Yeah, 3.
So still successful. It's just still having an okay run. I mean, Lilo and Stitch are still winning.
Yeah.
But so it's got pretty heavy competition in the action genre at the moment. And a lot of people who want to see Mission Impossible will probably want to see Ballerina, and they've only got so much money.
Well, like, box office is just generally down because the days of, like, the hangout movie are over, where you'd say, oh, you know what, I got a couple hours to kill, why don't I just go to a movie? People just aren't doing that as much now because movies have gotten so expensive.
Yeah.
And so it's targeted viewing. And a lot of people were like, I want to see Lilo and Stitch, or I want to see Mission Impossible. That's worth my money. I'm going. Fewer people are like, I have to see Ballerina on the big screen.
And there's been a lot of films this year that have done the same thing, like Sinners.
Yeah.
Did pretty well for itself, but it wasn't gangbusters.
It did incredibly well. So Sinners is actually a box office smash.
I think that's more based on the amount of money spent and the fact it had no IP whatsoever than its actual receipts.
It's close to $300 million domestic. It's a smash.
That was domestic? I thought it was worldwide.
Yeah, that's almost domestic.
Oh, I take that back. That's pretty good. Shows how much I know.
It was a legit phenomenon. Yeah, and
fair enough.
Worldwide, not huge, but I mean, it was very successful. Ryan Coogler is going to get to do whatever he wants with his next movie.
The reason I bring it up is more to do with I don't consider myself part of the film community online, but I do watch discourse on social media, and it just didn't feel like people were particularly talking about Ballerina this weekend.
No, it felt very quiet the same way Karate Kid did last weekend. That's a movie I felt like barely even came out.
Yeah, I think I saw Jackie Chan on some talk shows, and that was about it.
Yeah. I mean, I saw Ana de Armas. God bless her, was out there plugging this thing like crazy. She was on Hot Ones. She was doing the Wired autocorrect Q&A, all that kind of stuff. Fulfilling every contractual obligation she had and more, and going above and beyond to try to sell the movie. But it's just a weird time, and I think like the problem is this movie is, hitting the marks you want to hit to be a successful and engaging John Wick sidequel movie. But at the end of the day, it's not special. There's nothing in this movie that has that kind of like, oh, wow, like that really felt like it was doing something outside the norm, like something I wouldn't have expected. And I mentioned it earlier, like the whole revenge subplot and the whole, I have to get revenge for my father being murdered by bad guys. It's like, it's cliched stuff, and it doesn't get better.
This plot is Black Widow.
It's Black Widow, and then when you get to the whole thing with meeting a young girl who has a single father, that's where I just began to think of Elektra, because that was the whole plot of Elektra, was this assassin who had to protect this young girl from bad guys, and I'm like, well, I kind of feel, and again, like Elektra's not exactly carving out a new mold for itself with that plot. It's just like very hackneyed stuff. And with Ballerina, I felt like it was relying on cliches, which are okay if you prop them up with things that really pop. And when it came to the supporting characters, that's kind of where I felt really let down, because like I think Anjelica Huston is a lot of fun as the head of the the killer ballet school.
Sure.
And Ian McShane is incredibly reliable as Winston. He's always a joy in any John Wick film he's in. But like when it came to new additions to this franchise, I didn't think it had a lot to offer.
Well, I think I mentioned this earlier. A lot of these films also like rely on a villain, and Gabriel Byrne is a great actor in other things I've seen him in.
Yeah,
but in this, he just felt sort of flat.
Well, you don't exactly spend the movie going, I can't wait to see Ana de Armas fight Gabriel Byrne.
No, and there's no and there really is not a payoff when they do fight.
No, he's kind of like, I don't know, his entire plot about running basically a European village that her father...
Like a retirement home for assassins, basically.
Yeah, that her father left behind. It was not the most compelling of stuff. No. And, I just felt like that's where you were kind of like, oh, this is where like that little spark of magic happens with the John Wicks, where the storytelling does connect at the best of times, and it didn't here.
There's a human nature thing to the John Wick story. Like a lot of people would go to the mat for their dog.
Yeah.
So you get it. Like,
yeah,
you kill my dog, I'm not gonna murder an entire village of people, but like I'd be pretty angry in real life.
Sure. And then you look at like what like Donnie Yen contributed in the fourth one as like a sidekick for John Wick. And you're like, that is how you just raise the energy level of this franchise. And I just felt like Ballerina, Ana de Armas is good, but her character doesn't really have anyone to bounce off of that's particularly interesting. You bring in like Norman Reedus, who's, a well-known character actor. Sons of Anarchy obviously made him very popular. But like
Walking Dead.
What a blah kind of character. And
that I had a note about that. I wonder if that character was a reshoot victim.
Where it seemed like he was gonna die or something, right?
Well, I felt like he was sort of stabbed at the train station or whatever it was, and then he just appears at the end
in like a hospital bed. Yeah, I thought that was bizarre.
Or like he was supposed to survive it and do more stuff with her, and it all got cut out or something. Like I don't really get that. It felt very anticlimactic when he was dispatched. I was like, oh, where did that guy go? And then, oh yeah, he died in the train station. I genuinely had that thought during the film.
Well, I wondered if he had like a definitive death scene, and then they cut that and decided to bring him back at the end for whatever reason.
In case they want him for a sequel or whatever.
I also thought to myself that the John Wick presence in the finale of the movie was added. That did not feel... I can totally buy there was the two ships in the night kind of cameo where they cross paths at the midpoint of the film for like a brief dialogue exchange. I thought that's probably what was there originally as
Mm-hmm.
kind of your little cameo for Keanu Reeves. But when they added him into the finale, and he doesn't really do anything and doesn't interact with other characters at all, I thought that's the stuff that they added in.
He shoots one guy, but
Uh-huh.
that could have been the Norman Reedus character.
It could have been anyone, and it doesn't have to happen. They could have easily had a scene where she's the one that pulls off that shot.
Yeah, or it's like her sister or something like that. Like, there's all kinds of things you could have done.
Yeah.
I had the exact same feeling during that end battle that Keanu felt pushed into it, but it didn't jar me. But the fact that my brain went there maybe tells me it did.
Well, it was, I think, fun because you have Anjelica Huston sending him in. I don't know. I've seen people gripe online that doesn't make sense with what the character was doing at that point in the movie. But to be honest with you,
Wasn't he excommunicated at that point?
I think he was, but whatever. The timelines of the John Wick franchise are not things that I particularly hold sacred. So
Or care
whatever.
about, yeah.
But the fact that like he just was not communicating with anyone other than like Anjelica Huston off screen
Mm.
and a brief dialogue bit with Ana de Armas, I was like, oh
Yeah, on the telephone.
yeah, yeah. And the outcome of the fight, the ultimate her taking on Gabriel Byrne and his goons, it's just him reporting back that like, okay, he's dead, and none of that was necessary. Like, you didn't need anything that he contributed in the finale
No,
to ultimately what the film is like doing.
no. But let's talk about some of the things that did work, because we're sort of ultra criticizing the film, but there are some moments. I think Ana de Armas does a good job of giving you a somewhat grounded character in a world that's very silly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about any of the high table Rustica Roma stuff, the tattoos, the training, her ballerina friend that got taken away because she couldn't dance well. None of that really bothers me.
That never came back either. That was like the sort of thing
No.
that you think they would have brought back at some point.
I thought she was going to be in the room where they have to put the gun together.
Oh, that would have made sense. Yeah,
Yeah, her final test is she has to kill her friend.
yeah.
Isn't that what happened in Thunderbolts with Yelena?
That's right. It was. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe that's why they cut it.
I don't think so. I don't think they were watching Thunderbolts.
Taking copious notes.
They had advanced screenings of Thunderbolts.
This Sentry guy, I don't know. Maybe we should put him in the film. We can't put
Oh,
him in
boy.
John Wick. Okay, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think Ana de Armas does a good job with it. I don't think there will be a future for her, but that's a shame.
Well, I mean, I guess, is it a shame if
I don't mean her career. Ana de Armas is going to be just fine, folks, without our rating. But I just mean the John Wick character.
Is it a shame if a sidequel doesn't spawn an ongoing franchise? I feel like it's like whatever, whatever.
I know. I'll bite back on that. And I don't mean to say I bite back on you. I just bite back on that sentiment because I just think there's been like, some people might get a bit annoyed at me saying this. There's been so many attempts at having a female-led action franchise,
That's true.
and none of them seem to land, or they don't land as well as the male counterparts, and so audiences or studios just write them off.
No, that's true. And actually, you know what? Florence Pugh is the basically headline character even on Thunderbolts, and that didn't hit the way I think they wanted either. So that has been an ongoing trend for sure. And when I watch this movie or Atomic Blonde, one from the past,
Or Salt, or 355.
well, let's stick with the two I'm referring to, because the thing is,
Okay.
like, both of those, storytelling wise, you can have your issues, but you know what? I can have my issues with any male-driven action film as well. But in terms of technical action filmmaking, are high-level stuff.
Yeah.
And I think like the fact that that is kind of being ignored is a little concerning, because it's not like they are phoning it in.
Because I like, people were saying this film will end up doing more than the original John Wick did.
Yeah, it will.
And that's probably adjusted for inflation as well. So theoretically, then, shouldn't it get a sequel?
It cost a lot more than the first John Wick. That's for sure.
True. But then the scope was bigger than the first one.
Yeah, like John Wick was like a low budget action film when they made it. Like, this is more of a studio tentpole.
So that's my only bite back. Like, I can logically, I understand why this probably won't get a sequel, but that does I do think that's a shame.
Well, let's put it this way: if they made a Ballerina 2, I'll happily show up. But when I look at the numbers, I just go, no, this isn't a reliable.
Oh, Ballerina 2 too?
Oh, well, now they have to make it. But, I was going to say about Ana de Armas, like, something that I think is really effective is how they use her in an action film here. Because they don't turn her into John Wick Part 2.
No.
Like, they play with the fact that she's small. And at one point they say, like, fight like a woman in this movie. Like,
I don't like that line.
emphasize.
But
Well, whatever. But they're, like, saying that. Like, you have what could be perceived as disadvantages in a fight. Use them, and the way you see her get thrown around over the course of the whole movie, that's not like Keanu Reeves, who's like 6'2" or something like that, like and very lanky, long limbs. That's not what she has, and so I like that the movie's constantly finding ways to play with that, and also to have her take different alternate routes to emerging victorious in a fight. You've got great stuff like there's her using like ice skates to just like pummel someone, and really effective. And it's not like she's doing it with like blunt force, I'm so strong. It's like she's using the blades as like a weapon. And I think it's smart touches like that we can say what we can about the storytelling not being necessarily at the level you hope with a John Wick film, but like these movies are like 80% action. And I think with the action, it's really like smartly thought out and, definitely works very well on screen. So I can't complain when there's so many scenes of her doing things that look really cool.
Yeah, and I think the other scene that is worth shouting out is the flamethrower duel.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And that's the type of sequence where I go, I've seen people use flamethrowers before in movies. I've never seen anything like this.
No, not like two of them like jousting at each other, and then like there's the whole battle of light and dark with the water hose versus the flamethrower. Like, I've never seen that. And a lot of that was practical.
And you believed people were on fire.
Yeah, the when she was torching people, that was brutal.
And think of how many movies we've seen post the year 2000 with CG fire.
Yeah.
And how bad it almost always looks. And we've just gotten used to it. Oh, there's an explosion. Yep, looks like CG. Or, a flamethrower is shown in a different movie and you're seeing like CG fire everywhere. This feels real. You can feel the heat almost coming off of it. And you're just like sitting there going, my God, how did the actors do this? Like, this seems crazy.
That's just me rubbing my knees when Ana de Armas comes on screen. Sorry. A lot of friction burns.
I liked how when we watched John Wick 4, there's like the part where it's that like top down sequence where it's him with like the fire gun.
Yeah.
And you watch that and you go, I haven't seen that in a movie before. And they have not run out of ideas, even though this is the 5th installment in the Wick franchise on the big screen. And they had cool things they could do with flamethrowers here.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, I mean, unfortunately, it's in the trailers. You get more in the film. But yeah, I think that's a memorable moment along with the ice skate sequence. But back to your point about them using Ana de Armas' stature, I think she's like 5'4" or something.
Yeah.
There was a lot of talk and discourse online from certain groups of people that were like, yeah, she can't take down a guy that's like 6'5", blah blah blah. It's not believable. Like, I dare you to go and fight like a black belt in judo, a female black belt in judo guy on the internet. She'll beat the living crap out of you. I don't care if you had a bar fight once and think or you can bench 100 pounds or whatever. They're going to kick your ass. Someone who's well trained at this sort of stuff will take you down. And this film acknowledges it and builds it into the fights because her fights look scrappy.
Yeah, she gets hit a lot.
Yeah, she is using she's not like, and I do hear this online a lot, and I think this is a very fair criticism of other female leads in other films. This whole Mary Sue thing. Like, sometimes they are made to just be like Wonderkin.
Yeah.
This is not that. She is fragile and fallible and gets her ass handed to her, but at the end of the day, she is scrappy enough to get through it, and that's really her strength. Whereas like John Wick's is more like he's just a force of nature. I think it speaks wonders. I can't remember her character's name. Eve is more like she just about gets through the film.
Well, and also like John Wick, by the end he's got this like invincible like suit jacket that just repels bullets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a little more of a danger factor with her because of the fact she doesn't have that, but you also see her getting hit a ton and flying all over the screen. And there's like a early like nightclub fight, which I thought was sensational. The problem it has is that it is back to back with the nightclub fight in John Wick 4,
Yes.
which was like
huge,
incredible,
big.
and it doesn't live up to that one, unfortunately. But it still is really cool, and that kind of sets up her character as someone you're going to see get hit a lot, and is going to have to just keep fighting through. And I bought it. Like, it worked. It felt like there was actual attention being made to conceiving ways of a character taking part in action scenes that wasn't just like flawless shooting a gun or kicking people over.
No, I agree, and I think like other filmmakers could take some lessons with this when it comes to female protagonists. The other thing I wanted to shout out in terms of the good stuff is Lance Reddick.
Yeah.
As Charon. I'm not saying his performance was changing the world in this film, but this is the last thing he ever shot.
Yes. I mean, he doesn't have a lot to do in the movie. It's pretty brief, but he's always charming in these movies. It's like him and Ian McShane are a great duo, and it's not necessarily what you kind of hope for as like the grand send-off to Lance Reddick in the Wick franchise, but
yeah,
it's nice to have him.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm just glad he was here. I can't think of anything else I really wanted to shout out in the good section.
I liked Anjelica Huston. I think there's a lot more they could do with that character. She has a certain sinister nature. I mean, I just immediately think of like the witches back in the day when she was the villain in that movie and how unsettling she was. And I think like you sit her at a table and just have her staring someone down, she's like threatening. And I don't know that we'll ever see any sort of comeuppance or any sort of payoff to her character, but I would be interested in it.
I got a bit tired of her shtick in this film, I have to say. It was a lot of just sitting at tables.
Yeah.
High or not, and just talking to people. It's very much the what's the name of that actor that was in Kill Bill?
Uma Thurman?
No. Old school like martial artist.
David
who's
Carradine?
like the big bat Carradine. Yeah. Like a lot of his acting towards the end of his career was like him sat down.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, I get it. I understand why they're sat down and they can still give a performance, but I don't know. It's not very dynamic.
Are you describing Luther's performance in the last Mission Impossible film?
Yes, but at least they said like he was dying.
True. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Anything? I mean, we kind of spoken about this, like what didn't work. Okay, so we've kind of gone through that. But is there anything else to throw in?
Yeah. I think Len Wiseman as a director is really hit or miss. Again, we don't know how much was reshot here, but Len Wiseman, I don't trust him when it comes to CG. And there was some really dodgy CG bits in this movie. I thought
that didn't jump out to me, but what bits did you catch?
I thought when you got to the village at the end of the movie, that all looked completely phony.
Sure.
There's also a scene earlier in the movie where Ana de Armas gets in a car and is driving away and then gets hit by a high-speed car coming at her. And I was like, what the hell was that? It looked like a video game.
I don't think I remember that. Okay. I'll take your word for it on there.
It was really glaring when you look at the practical fight sequences and then have a CG car hit like that. It just looks really, really bad.
Maybe that's just a victim of the reshoots and having less time to perfect the CG.
I think they had many years to get the CG going on that one.
I think annoyingly, and this maybe sort of begins to wrap up our conversation on Ballerina for now, at least. I don't know if we do a full episode on this down the road or not, but I think the film's legacy is going to be more to do with the backstage shenanigans than the quality of the film itself.
I just don't think people even remember the behind the scenes. I don't think this is a movie that'll be destined to be remembered.
You think it's just going to fall away like The Continental did?
Yeah, I kind of feel that way, unless it's really rediscovered on streaming.
Like, I'm just thinking about Ana de Armas now. She's had a few action films that have tried to launch franchises, and they've all failed.
Yeah, like Paloma was probably the character that connected the most, but that was not going to happen. And
Ghosted, never coming back.
I think the only other thing she has coming up is a TV series she's working on, apparently. So I don't know if she just decides, okay, I tried doing that with, The Gray Man and Ghosted and Ballerina, and I did not have huge success there, so she'll just pivot into doing other things.
Yeah, I mean, she's always been someone who has a very mixed CV.
Yep.
With different types of things going on, so fair play to her. I had higher hopes for this film overall, but I think it's a perfectly serviceable action film that probably is a tad bit too long, but yeah, I am glad I went to see it in theaters, but I also didn't pay for it.
True. Okay. Yeah, like to me, my hopes were not high at all. I really didn't expect much, and I had a decent enough time. I enjoyed watching it for 2 hours. It didn't drag particularly, and the action was what you hope for in this type of movie. So it does what it says on the tin. Ultimately, I'd say.
It's funny because this review is sort of bold right down the middle, where we're both kind of like, it's got this good stuff, it's got this bad stuff. It's kind of a 3.5 or 2.5 out of 5. That's kind of what this film is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Safe bet, bold right down the middle. The only question I had left down in my notes, which maybe is a nice discussion to lead us out, is the future for John Wick.
I'd say there's a reason that they are bringing Keanu back for John Wick 5.
Do you think that would possibly lead to the end?
If Keanu wants to keep doing them, they'll extend it. Because it's not just him; it's Stahelski as well. It's the two of them working together. So as much enthusiasm they have going forward, it'll continue. But you do run that point of getting to that Fast and Furious point where you are making wrap-up films where the audience has lost interest in them, and kind of know when your peak is and know when to check out, appropriately. As if a guest was leaving the Continental right before danger hit. Like, leave while the getting's good. Maybe Ballerina's a little bit of maybe the audience doesn't care about this world as much as they used to at a certain point. Maybe it's smart to do John Wick 5 and call it a day for a while. I don't know.
I would agree. I think that's probably their best bet. The only question it leaves me is, like, there was a talk of doing a spin-off with the Donnie Yen character, Kane.
Oh, that is happening, I believe. So, yeah.
Okay. I just it feels to me that there is less of an appetite than they wanted there to be for a larger world of John Wick.
Yes, and maybe the Donnie Yen one is a bigger hit. It'll definitely do well overseas for sure, because Donnie Yen is a big movie star in his home country, so that movie will have, I think, a genuinely big audience. But I mean, he was great in John Wick 4, so I'm open to watching it. This did nothing to dissuade me from watching spin-off characters of other, characters set in this universe, but I just don't know that they're going to connect at the domestic box office.
No. Well, I would keep my arms open for a Donnie Yen follow-up, but I suspect they won't greenlight any more sidequels.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go, folks. That's Ballerina. It's danced its way into theaters. Should you dance into the fire of the flamethrower? Cam's going to leave that one hanging.
Well, yes, you should. You should.
Okay. Thanks, Cam. Appreciate it. As we said, it's up to you. It's probably not like us saying go and run to it, but if you have the spare change or you have like a subscription, maybe go and see it. If not, maybe just wait until it's on streaming. I'm sure it'll be there in about 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was us for the week. But Cam, the question goes to you, sir, as I love to ask, what are we doing next week?
Well, we are going to be jumping over to another action franchise. We are going to be returning to the world of The Equalizer with The Equalizer 2 from 2018.
Yep, from one Baba Yaga to another. I guess that kind of works. It's nice to go back to the world of, McCall, see what he's up to. We had a good time with the first one. 2 is the only one I haven't seen, so I'll be completing the trilogy.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, Denzel is always reliable, so it'll be interesting to see how he takes that character in a different direction, because this is, I believe, his first ever sequel.
Yeah, we had a good time with the first one, so the only way is up, I'm sure. A bigger budget, a bigger scope, and more Denzel. What can go wrong? Your mission, folks, should you choose to accept it, is to join us next week as we take a look at The Equalizer 2. If you like what you heard in this episode, please consider joining us over on the Patreon. We'll rename it for a day The High Table.
Yes.
Come and join us with your high chairs at the high table.
And gold coins.
We will accept gold coins.
We will indeed.
Yeah, we won't give you a night's stay, though.
No. My couch is only so big.
Yeah, you can have something from the buffet. That's it. That's it. But come and join us over on the Patreon, patreon.com/spyhards. Over 100 bonus episodes, but mostly you're keeping the lights on at Spyhards HQ, helping to pay for the show. Join us on social media at Spyhards, SPYHARDS, wherever you get your social medias. But until next time, Cam and I are off to the all-female dojo round the corner to pick a fight.